My name is Jessica Carter, and I'm 36 years old. I run a luxury hotel business called Smith Holdings. It's been 5 years since I married my husband, Michael Carter. I met him when I was 30 at a networking event in the real estate industry. I was drawn to his passion for work and how honest and genuine he seemed. His proactive approach won me over, and we started dating. A year after we began our relationship, we got married and started a new life together as a couple. It was Michael who suggested we build a new home.
Jessica, let's start a new life together with our own house.
His words filled me with excitement. We built a modern house in an upscale neighborhood in the heart of the city. I took care of everything, from the interior design to the furniture. Michael was busy and didn't attend most of the planning meetings. I ended up covering most of the expenses, but I didn't mind. I was happy to start this new chapter of our lives. However, that happiness began to crumble all too soon. Michael started coming home later and later, claiming he was working overtime. He began keeping his phone hidden, closing the screen as soon as I got near. Michael, is something going on?
Nothing. I'm just busy with work, that's all.
But his tone felt off, almost forced. I could sense he was hiding something. Then the day came. Michael stood in front of me as I was relaxing in the living room.
I need to talk to you, Jessica.
What is it? I felt a twinge of unease, but waited for him to speak.
I have another family, your sister and her daughter. The three of us are going to live in this house, so you need to leave.
What are you saying? I tried to stay calm and pressed him for an explanation.
I'm with your sister, Rachel. From now on, it'll be Rachel, her child, and me living here. We don't need you anymore.
Excuse me? I stared at Michael in utter disbelief. At that moment, Rachel appeared from one of the back rooms. With a provocative smile, she slowly walked toward me.
Jessica, why don't you stop interfering?
Her words only fueled the anger burning inside me.
We're going to be a family. Jessica, it's time for you to move on.
As Rachel finished speaking, Michael chimed in.
Don't get in our way, Jessica.
For a moment, I was at a loss for words. But in the next instant, I felt my mind become cold and clear. I see. I had seen this coming and had already prepared for it. Michael, Rachel, you'd better be ready. Without another word, I stood up and pulled a piece of paper from the shelf. It was the divorce papers I had already prepared. Here are the divorce papers. I handed them to Michael and Rachel with a calm voice.
What?
Michael looked confused.
Are you serious?
He hesitated as he took the paper, staring at it in disbelief. Yes, I'm serious. I smiled, secretly smirking to myself. I saw this coming. My calm response drained the color from both Michael and Rachel's faces. They still didn't know the revenge I had in store for them. Enjoying the stunned expressions on their faces, I silently anticipated the beginning of my plan. Just then, the doorbell rang, cutting through the tense air in the living room.
Who could it be at this hour?
Rachel muttered, unable to hide her irritation and nervousness. They're here. When I opened the front door, standing tall and composed was my grandfather, George Smith. With his back straight and an air of authority, he stepped into the living room.
Hello, Michael.
He said in a calm, low voice that instantly froze the atmosphere.
George?
Michael stared at him in confusion.
Why are you here?
Though visibly flustered, Michael forced a smile, trying desperately to maintain his composure.
Did Jessica call you?
He asked, glaring at me. Of course, I did. Save me, Grandpa. I smiled lightly, sending a knowing look his way.
Michael, someone like you has no place in our company. Consider yourself terminated as of today.
Michael's face turned pale, and he was rendered speechless.
Wait a second.
Yes, I had been making plans all along. When I started to feel suspicious about Michael's behavior, I decided to take a bold step and track his actions. After finishing work one day, I secretly checked the GPS on Michael's phone. It showed he was heading to a cafe. A cafe? At this hour? Through the cafe window, I saw Michael sitting with my sister, Rachel. The two of them were leaning close, talking with intimate smiles. My heart raced as I slipped into a hidden corner inside the cafe, straining to listen to their conversation.
Hey, Michael, we're almost ready to move into our new house.
Yeah, I'm done with Jessica. I can't wait to start a new life with you.
Just kick Jessica out. This house is going to be ours.
In that moment, I felt a sharp, painful twist in my chest. But alongside it came a cold, determined anger. Why does it have to be my sister, Rachel? I pulled out my phone and began recording their conversation.
Michael, why me and not Jessica?
Rachel asked in a playful tone. What a ridiculous question. I would never stoop to ask something so meaningless.
Jessica is too perfect. It's exhausting being around her. I want to live an easy life. She's always so ambitious, and she expects so much from me. It's suffocating.
Rachel responded gleefully.
But I'm different, right?
That's right. You don't need to do anything. Just be there and spoil me, and that's enough.
I was too perfect, so I became an inconvenience. Michael had twisted his own laziness and shortcomings into grievances against me. The love and effort I gave him were nothing but a burden in his eyes. And Rachel had become his convenient escape. If he wants an escape, I'll make sure it's impossible for him to run. At that moment, I resolved to take my revenge. That evening, I invited my grandfather, George Smith, and my father, William Smith, to help plan Michael and Rachel's downfall. They were the two people I trusted most. In the quiet of the study, I played the recording of their betrayal. As the incriminating words echoed through the room, my grandfather frowned deeply, and my father, maintaining a stoic expression, began sorting through documents.
Jessica, what do you want to do next?
I want to make them pay for everything. Both Michael and Rachel. I want to destroy them completely. My voice was calm, but inside, a fiery determination for revenge raged. My grandfather nodded deeply and looked at me with a steely gaze.
All right, let's do this thoroughly. But we must execute this plan perfectly. No mercy.
His words solidified my resolve. At that moment, the bond between the three of us became unshakable. My father quietly closed the documents in front of him and spoke with measured words.
If Michael thinks everything will go his way, let's show him how wrong he is. He doesn't realize yet that we're working behind the scenes.
I took a deep breath and couldn't help but smile. Thank you both. Don't hold back. We'll push them until they regret everything. My grandfather smiled with satisfaction and slowly stood.
We're ready. I'll see to it that Michael is entirely removed from his position in society. There will be no escape for him.
My father continued in a calm tone.
Leave the legal side to me. Not only will I handle the compensation claims, but I'll also uncover every bit of evidence of his misconduct. The groundwork is already in place.
Well then, let's get started. I stood, meeting their determined gazes. We divided our roles and began acting swiftly and efficiently. My grandfather immediately proceeded with Michael's dismissal, while my father meticulously prepared all the legal documents necessary for the compensation claims. I'll ensure they lose both their new home and their careers. That's their punishment. My mind was made up. The same resolve was evident in my father and grandfather. With no hesitation, we crafted a flawless plan. Our strategy was to strike the moment Michael and Rachel let their guard down. Right now, they believed they were the victors. What awaited them, however, was the beginning of a merciless act of vengeance orchestrated by the three of us. Michael protested desperately, his voice trembling.
I'm your grandson-in-law, aren't I? You can't just fire me out of the blue like this.
His forced smile betrayed his belief that he deserved special treatment. But grandfather's expression remained unrelenting and cold.
You're only at our company because you're married to Jessica. But now, even that status is meaningless. There's no reason for us to continue employing someone who betrays their family and uses the company to do it.
Wait, are you serious about firing me? This can't be happening.
Michael, flustered, looked at Rachel as if pleading for help. Rachel, filled with anger, stood up abruptly.
Grandpa, I'm your granddaughter too, so what's the big deal? Firing Michael is just cruel.
She approached George, clenching her fists.
We're about to start our happy life together. How are we supposed to live if Michael loses his job?
Her voice cracked as she shouted, her eyes brimming with tears. But grandfather remained calm.
Being my granddaughter doesn't mean I'll bend the rules, especially not for someone who betrayed their family and caused damage to this company.
That's not fair. This is about our future. Grandpa, please reconsider.
Rachel clung desperately to her argument, but his resolve didn't waver.
If you care about your future, you should take responsibility for your actions.
Michael, looking cornered and on the verge of tears, turned to grandfather, pleading.
George, please, just give me one more chance.
A chance? The moment you betrayed Jessica, every chance you had disappeared.
He delivered his words with finality.
A man like you has no right to be part of this company.
Michael's face flushed bright red as he opened his mouth to argue, but no words came out.
Jessica, say something to help me.
Michael looked at me with desperate, pleading eyes, clinging to his last shred of hope. I gave him a cold smile and slowly shook my head. I'm not your wife anymore. I could see the color drain from Michael's face.
You're really abandoning me?
He stared at me in disbelief. Abandon you? You're the one who abandoned me. My voice was calm, almost detached.
Michael, as of today, you are no longer part of this company.
Grandfather declared this to everyone in the room, as if delivering a final verdict.
Starting tomorrow, there will be no place for you to report to.
Michael was completely stunned and collapsed to the floor.
This can't be happening.
I watched his despair with a detached sense of calm. But this was just the beginning. The real reckoning was still to come. As Michael crumbled under the weight of his dismissal, the room grew tense again. Entering the living room was my father, William Smith, who also served as the legal advisor for Smith Holdings.
This isn't the end, Michael.
My father said in an even tone as he placed a thick stack of documents on the table.
William?
Michael looked at my father in confusion.
What are those papers?
His voice trembled. My father, calm and methodical, began to explain.
These are records of the losses you've caused to our company, Smith Holdings, and its partners. Included are invoices for damages and a comprehensive list of evidence regarding your misconduct.
What?
Michael stared at my father as though he were trapped in a nightmare.
Wait, misconduct? I don't know what you're talking about.
He frantically tried to defend himself, but my father remained unshaken.
You don't know. We've documented your misuse of company funds to cover personal expenses with Rachel, embezzlement of corporate resources, and false reports to business partners. All of it has been investigated.
No, there's no way you have evidence.
Sweat beaded on Michael's forehead as he desperately flipped through the documents. There, laid out in meticulous detail, were the records of his misconduct and corresponding evidence.
The losses to our partners are included as well. Altogether, it amounts to $1 million.
My father stated coldly.
$1 million?
Michael was stunned, dropping the papers from his hands.
That's impossible. There's no way I can pay that.
He shouted, half panicked, and then turned to Rachel, looking for help. And then Michael turned to Rachel, seeking help with a desperate look. Rachel, also overcome with despair, rushed to my father.
Dad, this has to be a joke, right? This is way too cruel. We need a new life together. Don't do this to Michael.
But my father responded with a cold and resolute tone.
What's needed isn't a life, but accountability. The damage you two have caused to Smith Holdings and its partners is significant. You will pay the price for it.
No way. That's impossible.
Rachel screamed through her tears, but my father remained unmoved.
If you can't pay, we'll proceed with legal action and seize your assets. That's the reality.
Wait, I didn't.
Michael stammered, his voice shaking as he tried to defend himself, but my father cut him off with a calm yet firm tone.
If you have time to make excuses, you should use it to prepare for payment.
Jessica, say something, please. I'm begging you.
Michael looked at me with desperate eyes, clinging to any hope. I gave him a cold smile and replied, Michael, you no longer have a place anywhere. Michael, trembling, looked even more cornered and stammered.
Please, Jessica, we can start over, can't we? It's not too late.
I shrugged and spoke quietly. Start over? After choosing Rachel, you're saying this? You made your choice. And no, I have no intention of starting over with you.
Unfortunately, it seems Jessica's decision is final.
When my father calmly delivered his conclusion, Michael completely broke down.
If you're not prepared to pay, we will proceed with formal legal action.
My father's merciless words made the atmosphere in the living room even colder.
There's no way. I can't pay. What am I supposed to do?
Michael buried his head in his hands, utterly defeated. I looked down at him and felt a quiet certainty in my heart. What awaits next will be an even harsher reckoning. The moment Michael collapsed in despair, unable to say another word, Rachel, unable to hide her irritation, spoke up.
Enough already. Michael lost his job, and now you're hitting us with this outrageous bill.
Rachel glared at us, clenching her fists.
But this house is ours. We've decided to start our new life here.
At that moment, a quiet smile spread across my face. I had been waiting for her to say those words. I slowly stood up, looking Rachel in the eye, and slightly lifted the corners of my mouth. Rachel, you think this house is yours?
That's right. After Jessica is gone, the three of us will start our new life here.
Michael, flustered, echoed her claim.
Exactly. This house belongs to us.
I smiled calmly and spoke slowly. Is that so? But you see, this house is in my name. Rachel and Michael's faces turned pale in an instant.
What?
Watching their reactions, I continued. The title, the loan, the deed. Everything is under my name, which means this house is my property.
No, that's impossible.
Rachel shouted in panic, glaring at me.
But Michael said it was our house, that it was ours.
Sorry to disappoint you, but you misunderstood. I said in an even tone, pulling out some documents to show them. Here, this is proof of ownership and the title in my name. Michael, with a look of utter despair, scanned the documents before collapsing to the floor.
No, how could this happen?
Rachel, desperate, reached out to grab the documents, but I casually moved them out of her reach. Michael, you were the one who suggested building this house back then, weren't you? I waited for Michael to nod before continuing. But you left all the planning and payments entirely up to me. Pointing to a section of the documents, I explained, when the loan was finalized, I made sure to put it solely in my name. Naturally, the bank approved it based on my credit and assets. Your name was never mentioned, not even once.
What? Michael, how could you not notice this?
Well, I was busy, and Jessica was taking care of everything.
I let out a cold laugh. Yes, I handled everything for you, but as a result, this house became mine. I'm sorry, but this house is mine, and you have absolutely no rights to it.
That's ridiculous. Michael should at least have the right to live here.
Rachel shouted, trembling with anger. Hearing her desperate plea, I gave her a cold smile, tilting my head slightly in mock sympathy. The right to live here. That doesn't exist. Before Rachel could argue further, I continued with a frosty tone. The title, the loan, the contract, none of it ever included your names. You don't appear anywhere in the paperwork. In other words, you never had the right to live here in the first place. And no matter how much Michael insists this is our house, your confidence was nothing more than delusion. Even if you believed his words, the reality is that I'm the owner, and you two are nothing but trespassers. I'm sorry to break it to you, but the chances of you living here were zero from the beginning. This is not your home, so pack your things and leave. Michael was completely at a loss for words, while Rachel stood frozen, her face filled with shock. Rachel desperately began to protest. Ignoring my words entirely, she raised her voice, trembling with anger.
I'm not leaving. This is our house.
Michael raised his voice, refusing to back down.
That's right. We have the right to live here. You can't just kick us out
I calmly smiled as I watched their pathetic attempts to defend themselves. So, that's your final decision? Rachel nodded furiously, glaring at me with a defiant, triumphant look.
That's right. No matter how much you scream and shout, this is our house. There's no way we're getting kicked out.
Michael folded his arms and chimed in smugly.
If you're gonna kick us out, take us to court or whatever. That'll take time and money, won't it?
He grinned confidently and added,
I'll just live here comfortably in the meantime.
Hearing his words, I took a deep breath, calm and composed. It was time to play the final card I had been holding on to. Very well. Then prepare yourselves. I pulled my phone from my pocket and began dialing without hesitation. Soon, the line connected to the security company.
This is the security team. How can we assist you?
Smiling calmly, I replied, There are trespassers on my property. Please come immediately and handle the situation. Rachel and Michael froze, exchanging nervous glances.
Wait a minute. We're family. What are you calling security for?
Michael shouted in a panic, but I didn't waver, my smile steady. Family? No, we're strangers now. And without your names on anything, staying here makes you trespassers. Rachel, her face pale, protested desperately.
This is too much. How can you go this far?
I responded with a cold smile, my tone unwavering. This is the result of your own actions. And since you said you wouldn't leave, this is the natural course of action. A few minutes later, the heavy chime of the intercom echoed through the house. Rachel and Michael's faces twisted in dread as they heard it. Security guards entered the living room with calm authority.
Now, to those unlawfully occupying the premises, please vacate immediately.
One of the security guards declared firmly.
Wait, we haven't done anything wrong.
Michael protested with a trembling voice, but the security guards responded calmly.
We've been informed by the property owner. If you resist, we'll involve the police.
Rachel turned completely pale, whispering to Michael in desperation.
Michael, stop. If the police get involved, we're finished.
Michael tried one last time to argue, but his voice shook and his words held no weight.
Well,
I looked down at them with an icy gaze and delivered my final words. This is the path you chose. Now leave. Tears welled in Rachel's eyes as she muttered weakly.
This can't be real.
Michael, utterly defeated, slumped his shoulders and stood as the guards directed them. With humiliated expressions, the two were forced to gather their belongings and leave the house that had never been theirs. However, my grandfather was not the kind of man to be satisfied with simply firing Michael. The following morning, an email was sent out to all employees in the company. The subject line read, Urgent, notice regarding former employees' misconduct. The content detailed Michael's actions in vivid clarity. False reporting to clients, embezzlement of company funds, and misappropriation of expenses for personal use. The report was so detailed that it resembled a criminal dossier, leaving the employees in shock.
Hey, did you hear? Michael got fired.
Not just fired. He was terminated for misconduct. He always acted so high and mighty.
Serves him right. I always thought he'd mess up someday.
And his affair was with Jessica's sister? That's just disgusting.
Employees expressed disbelief and anger. Michael had been known for sucking up to his superiors while being condescending and intimidating to his co-workers, so no one in the company sympathized with him. Grandfather took it a step further, issuing a formal company statement harshly condemning Michael's actions. To regain trust from business partners, he emphasized the message: there will be no tolerance for such behavior. Grandfather's decisive actions shifted the company's reputation internally and externally. Employees celebrated the upholding of justice, while Michael's credibility was utterly destroyed. Having lost his job and his home, Michael pinned his last hopes on finding new employment. What he didn't realize was that my grandfather had already foreseen this. Michael began sending resumes to various companies within the industry, attempting to secure interviews. However, every company responded with the same message:
We regret to inform you that we are unable to proceed with your application at this time.
Panicked, Michael applied to more and more job listings, but each company responded with the same cold rejection. Behind the scenes, my grandfather had leveraged his influence to ensure Michael's path was completely blocked. Within the industry, my grandfather's reach was immense. News of Michael's misuse of company funds and the resulting damages spread quickly among partners and related firms, effectively ending any chance of him securing employment again.
This wasn't supposed to happen.
Michael and Rachel tried seeking help from their families, but they were both coldly rejected. Michael's parents stated bluntly, "We have no obligation to help a son who betrayed Jessica." Also, my parents were equally unforgiving, saying, "After shaming Jessica, how dare you show your face here?" Left without support, the two had no choice but to rent a rundown apartment in the city. Before they could even settle into their cramped living situation, a court order for damages arrived. The judgment included defamation and business disruption penalties, totaling $120,000, with no option for installments. Full payment was required.
How are we supposed to pay this?
Michael stared at the notice in despair, while Rachel could only tremble silently, unable to speak. Adding to their misery, debts from Michael's misuse of company funds surfaced, and debt collectors began showing up at their apartment.
Hey, Michael, we need you to pay back what you owe.
The collectors' voices echoed through the thin walls, and Rachel, in tears, turned on Michael.
What are we supposed to do? Being chased by debt collectors like this? Our lives are over.
Within months, their lease was terminated due to unpaid rent, and they were forcibly evicted from the apartment. As their belongings were thrown onto the street, Rachel collapsed to her knees, crying out,
This can't be happening. I dreamed of a new life.
Where did I go wrong?
Passers-by glanced at them briefly before hurrying on, unwilling to help.
This is just like being homeless.
Michael murmured, prompting Rachel to lash out in fury, hitting him repeatedly.
This is all your fault. You lost the house, the company, and buried us in debt.
Michael didn't even try to defend himself, instead staring blankly at Rachel.
You're at fault too. If you hadn't seduced me, none of this would have happened.
The two began arguing, but their words quickly lost energy, leaving only an overwhelming sense of emptiness between them. As I drove, two figures caught my eye on the side of the road. Their disheveled clothes and lifeless postures. It was Michael and Rachel. Oh, what do we have here? They looked just like abandoned stray cats. A cold satisfaction welled up inside me. I smiled and spoke to the driver. "Stop the car for a moment, please." The car came to a gentle stop, and I rolled down the window. "Hi, what are you two doing here?" The two turned to face me. Shock, confusion, and panic instantly spread across their faces.
Jessica,
Michael stammered, his voice trembling as he said my name. Seeing him in such a state filled me with quiet satisfaction. The next moment, Rachel hurried over, reaching out to me, tears streaming down her face.
Jessica, please, help us. You're the CO. Hire Michael, please.
Help you? You want me to pull you out of the hole you dug for yourselves? What a ridiculous request. Help you? Weren't you the ones who tried to kick me out? And now you're asking for my help? Rachel's desperate face was almost comical, and I had to hold back a laugh that nearly shook my shoulders.
we were wrong. Please, just give us another chance.
Michael's voice cracked, and his tear-filled eyes pleaded with me. The man who once carried himself with such pride now looked utterly defeated, like a tattered rag. There are no more chances. I stated it clearly and firmly. There was no hesitation in my heart. You chose this path. Now take responsibility for it yourselves. This is how it should be. I had been waiting for this moment all along. Giving them one last glance, I slowly rolled up the window. The car was enveloped in silence, with only my heart feeling full. Let's go. The driver started the car again. Seated in the back, I watched the two fading into the distance through the rearview mirror. Their small figures, growing ever smaller, seemed to sink into the darkness, weighed down by the fate they had brought upon themselves. This is the future you chose. The car glided smoothly down the road as I quietly opened the door to my new life. There would be no turning back, not ever again. A few months later, the luxury hotel business, Smith Holdings, had grown even further. I was planning the launch of a new luxury hotel abroad, aiming for expansion into the Asian market.
Jessica, preparations for the Hong Kong hotel opening are going well.
Thank you. Please keep up the good work. Freed from the burden of toxic relationships, I now stood in a place where I could truly showcase my capabilities. Between work, I found time for yoga, wine tasting, and other hobbies, enjoying the balance in my life. New encounters during business trips brought fresh energy, and my life felt vibrant once more. I never looked back. Using the pain of the past as fuel, I walked forward, stronger and freer than ever. In both work and my personal life, this was the peak of my journey. From now on, I will continue to shape my future, free from the influence of anyone.